Cool. Hey, everybody. This is Sully with Set the Pipe. CK's here, Bears here, and Theo Edwards, CSUN Matadors head coach, is in the house today. Welcome, Theo, to Set the Pipe.
Man, excited to be here, guys.
I'm so happy to have you. I got my Northridge shirt on. I'm representing. I finally have two Matadors now. I'm always against two 49ers. We got two Matadors. Now we're even 2-2.
That's right, baby. That's right. Yeah, no,
wait.
I feel like I've been keeping up with you guys since the inception, and listening to the conversations and the people being on here. You guys are doing such a tremendous job.
Well, it was awesome. You gave us a nice shout out a couple of weeks ago, and thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that was big,
Absolutely,
man.
It's what's cool about it, Theo, is we're trying to just, we got into this. We're old guys that played, and it was like, just tell the story of volleyball. And now that we've been doing this, so many people want to come on, and we're so grateful for you to come on during your season and talk about, Northridge and just men's volleyball in general. But it's been fun for us to tell the story. And I think, as you know, because you have a lot of history with the sport, it's such a great sport, such a fun culture, such a good thing to get out to the masses. So that's what we're trying to do,
Yeah,
Yep.
well, and that was what the shout out was about. So many people who understand this game and what it's done for all of us in our lives and the connections we've been able to build. And man, I feel like I couldn't speak highly enough about for what volleyball has done for me. And so I love hearing your guys' stories, man. It makes me get back to my old days as a player and think about how great times were.
Well, let's talk about that. So this is your third season, correct, as the head coach at Northridge? Yep. Yeah. And you were an associate head coach prior to that. You were on some special teams back at Northridge when you played. Now, you were an outside, correct, Theo?
I was actually, if you go back far enough, I played every position there was.
You did.
Aside from
Bear was wondering that. Bear's like, was he middle?
Yeah.
I thought you were middle, yeah.
At the end, I was an outside hitter. And when we made our run to the Final Four.
Okay. Well, this guy is not a dumb guy for sure. He's a 5-time Dean's List honoree. CSUN made some history by being ranked, I think, the first team in Northridge, #1 in the country as Division I. Pretty incredible there. Then you gained some coaching experience on the international stage, silver medal as an associate coach with USA Volleyball, 2014 Pan Am Cup in Tijuana, Mexico, actually. Then garnered some gold and silver medals serving as an assistant coach for the USA Volleyball U19 Youth National Team. So you went from player to assistant to associate to head coach, right? For Northridge? Wow.
That is exactly right.
We've got somebody on the other side, on our side, Long Beach State side, has the same kind of path that you did with Alan Knipe, right? He just threw him through 49er, threw him through Matador, and we can't get away from Coley and his Matadors, I don't think. I mean, there's just a lot of love coming on your side. And to be quite honest, it was always like the blue-collar university, and you always knew you were going to be in a dogfight with CSUN for sure, no matter which way it goes. And Coley reminds us all the time how they smoked us 3 straight, which is true, but you just can't underestimate you guys. So, Theo, your resume is awesome. Coley's been wanting to get you on here for a while. It's been great. Pleasure to meet you for one, but we can't wait to hear your stories.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this before you jump in, Theo. Like, the fact that what makes me so proud as an alumni, and we talked about this last year. Northridge started out as nobody, right? Even when Price was coaching back in the day, when Samuelson was there, they didn't even make the playoffs. And I got there, and the team got there, and we just kept going up. And then when you got there, a whole nother level went back up. I mean, you played in the Final Four, right? I mean, all 4 of us got to do that, which is cool.
Yeah.
You and I both at Northridge, it's happened twice, and you and I both played in the Final Fours in those years. And then for you to continue on and stay at the same school that, you had those opportunities to play and to become the head coach, for us, alumni, it's just such a great thing for us to cheer for you, to cheer for the program, but to see what you did as a player and now as a coach. You guys have won 7 in a row. Tell us a little bit about your team this year and how is it to be the head coach at Cal State Northridge?
Top 10 team in the country.
Yeah, man, you guys are too kind with the intros. But our team, I think our team this year is unique and incredibly special. Last year was a lot of a build for us in the sense that we had a lot of seniors, but we were setting the stage for a lot of new things. And culturally, the ins and outs, right? And every program has their own stuff that happens in their camp, but the guys that graduated from us last year were fantastic leaders and Kyle Hobus, Griffin Walters, guys that are now playing overseas, playing professionally, and Griffin is actually studying his master's. Talon Cook, who's actually on my staff, he's our graduate assistant. Those were our seniors and guys that really helped pave the way and helped us build. And this team that we have this season, there's 9 new players, 9 new faces in the gym, 9 new faces in our program, and a lot of international guys and a lot of guys that come from all over the world. And so it really, starting in the fall of this past year, we had to really start over in a lot of ways. But the culture and the things that we had put in place in prior years has really helped us get a head start and helped us jump this team to where they are today. And they're incredibly excited. They worked their tails off. It's a really, really special group. And leading the way is senior setter Donovan Constable, who was an All-American for us last year, and Jalen Phillips, who essentially is a returning opposite who touches 12 feet and is quite a highlight reel when you watch him play. But we got a lot of young guys around those guys, and they're learning a ton throughout the progress. And it's been a really, really great group to work with.
That's awesome. You know what's great about being a coach at your level is, and I'm going to bring this up because we talked about this last year, to be able to, and Knipe does this, but to find the diamond in the rough, right? Like that's what recruiting to me is probably 80% of college sports. You got to get the players. You can be the greatest coach in the world, right? You go get a bunch of kids that can't compete at the highest level. Like you could coach all you want. You're not going to beat those teams. You're just not. And so like you told me you saw him just playing on the side or whatever it was. No one even knew who he was. And you saw him and you're like, I'm going to get him. He's going to be a great volleyball player. Last year, he's all freshman team. This year, he's one of the best players in the country and nobody knew who he was. Tell us a little bit about recruiting a kid like that. Because at Northridge, it's not what it was maybe when I was there, but you're going up against Long Beach, who's the best team in the country year in and year out. And the financial at some of these schools. How was it finding a diamond in the rough like that? And how do you go about recruiting like that?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, Coley. The dynamic of our conference is really unique, right? And it gets said all the time, and I feel like there's times when I say we're the best conference in the country, but it's really just based on the numbers, right? Like you look at it, the top teams, they're in the Big West for sure. And this is one of those years where I think every single team in the Big West is inside the top 20, if not most of them inside the top 10 or top 15, right? Yeah. So it's a really, really competitive league, and finding ways to stay in that space and be able to compete with the best in the world, you got to have athletes. And Coley, I think you speak to it because you know it and you know it well. Jalen was a guy that essentially I noticed in hitting lines. He did not start for his club. He was a sub that came off the bench, but he was a track and field athlete, and the way he moved, obviously the way he jumped, but also the way he moved was that of a multi-sport athlete, right? That of a guy like Coley, who was not a volleyball only guy and learned how to move before he figured out how to play.
You played hoops too.
Like me. Yeah. And I can go into that for sure. But Jalen was a special athlete, and didn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Right. And I think the thing that's really unique about guys like that is when they get here, you just have no idea mentally who they're going to be and what their drive is like, and do they love this game, and how they respond to the coaching and the work that they have to put in. Because from a volleyball perspective, I mean, his freshman year there were some guys were laughing. Like, it was like, man, this guy, he can't hit a ball in bounds. He doesn't know how to play the game. And I kept telling him, hey, you better be nice to him. Just wait.
Just wait.
Yeah,
just wait.
What does he touch? 12.5, 12. I mean, he's got to be way up there.
I think his top that we've seen is 12.5.
Oh, 12.5. Okay.
Is where he got.
I was real close to that.
And honestly, like, seeing it doesn't even make sense. Like, you're looking up at that to Vertec, and you're like,
that is incredible.
It's just like leaving the building. You know what I mean? It's pretty special for sure.
So one thing we've talked a lot about here is I went to the Long Beach State UCLA match. I went to the UCI SC match, going to your match next week. The game is so fast. It's so big. It's played so high above the net today. Yeah. You're more than a few years after me. How much more advanced is the game today than it was when you were playing? I mean, we know where it is when we were playing, but you're what, 8-10 years after me, I think. So how big of a difference is it?
It's so funny that you asked that question, because it wasn't until last year was the first time that I actually broke out some of the old footage and looked at it.
Yeah.
It had been over a decade since I had actually looked at the film from that time. It has changed so much that it shocked me. It shocked me. And and honestly, it's funny because in both your guys' time and mine, it was the pipe.
Yep.
Right.
We
Set the pipe.
right?
Set the
Set the pipe, baby.
And pipe it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It is not a pipe anymore.
Yeah.
And
Quick bigs, baby.
it's exactly. And the speed of the game, the athleticism top to bottom
Yeah, the jump
has
serving
changed
is
so
ridiculous.
tremendously. The thing that we laugh about though is some of the best teams, and it doesn't matter if you talk about today or you talk about back when we all played, the best teams have a certain level of focus and their ability to move on to the next play that doesn't matter how fast the game is. They are so laser dialed in at the ability to do that part hasn't changed at all. If you don't have it, it's really tough to play this game.
Yeah, you're right. So Coley mentioned the recruiting part. You got some come up over the next 2, 3, 5 years with NIL and the roster changes. And talk a little bit about that. What do you see coming up for a program like Northridge? Because you're not part of that Big Five football, right? So love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, right? Like you look at the landscape of men's volleyball, and you have a lot of the biggest schools, the biggest names that we all know and have been household names for a long time, but there's also a lot of us that are kind of that mid-major, right? Like kind of in that space that you talk to anyone in the country, they might not know who we are, but in volleyball terms, in the volleyball community, everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
And so it's unique. And to talk about where things are today, like we're already seeing teams that are starting with NIL and starting to pay some players and in the grand scheme of what we all know and love, the game is at a great place, and the level and the dedication that these kids are putting in today, and it's just exceptional. And so I love the concept that these guys can start getting more out of what they're putting in.
Agreed. 100%.
You look across every other sport and the other sports are doing this, and not that they're putting in more time and effort, right? Obviously basketball and football and the sports that we all know, they're getting paid, a lot of their athletes, and they're getting paid for what they do. And
so how do you get that at Northridge? Like, I mean, obviously I'm an alumni, so that's something we should definitely talk about of helping the men's volleyball program out. But how do you fund that? Like, we've been talking about this and we're going to continue to talk about it, but how do you get it where you can give someone 10 grand for the year, 100 grand for the year, whatever it would be?
Yeah, well, what I can tell you is that we are working on it. We're putting things in place to help really build for the future. What I can tell you is it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of resources that aren't money related, right? In order to really get behind it and build it the right way. But it is in the plans, and I think that part is really cool. The support from administration and their vision for where volleyball has been and where they believe we can stay is really awesome.
Well, last thing, because I do want to hear about the whole scholarship thing that he mentioned, because I know that's changed. But one thing I do want to say is, like, I know the administration's really, I'm as involved as I can be, and like listening to all the stuff they're doing, the basketball program's turned it around. But I hate to say it like this, guys, and I love Al, if Long Beach State can do it, Cal State Northridge can do it. And so the thing about Long Beach, we talked about this the other day, the three of us, is it's the best program at Long Beach State. And I love the basketball program, and a couple guys I know are playing on it. Great. I hope he builds it. But let's be real. There's not one team at that school right now that can win a Division I national championship other than men's volleyball.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
I mean, their baseball team, maybe they have a great year. They're usually decent, but like running through that whole thing, men's volleyball at Long Beach State is it, And so, like, going back to you at Northridge, like, I think there's no reason why you can't, we've always been trying to get there, but to mimic that, right? To be one of the best programs year in and year out.
Yeah.
For that.
Well, I'm going to give you guys a little insight and a lot of love to Alan Knight, because not only has he done a tremendous job in building this behemoth of a program, but the second that I got this job, he was the first one that reached out and said, "Hey, I can show you everything I've done." And
that's awesome.
From that point on has been helping me understand how to build a program the way he's done it. And I don't want to get him in trouble because I don't know that he's done that for a lot of other coaches, but I've been incredibly grateful because he has shown me things that I wouldn't have known without him. Mm-hmm. And so I think Alan is 25 years ahead of me in terms of what it takes to build it the right way. And And we all know that pyramid has been a really, really great help in the process.
Of course.
But the work that he has put in, the loyalty that he has built, the followings, he has done it the right way, and it's truly impressive.
You know, we've talked about this on multiple times on the pod, just how the best coaches are very humble. They're willing to share, and that's even the drills, right? But from a program perspective, that I don't know. I expect nothing less from Al, to be quite honest.
Of course,
he's
that's
a great judge of character, and just to be able to give back to the community and just to see this thing grow. So that was really good to hear. And like I said, I just think the most humble ones are the ones that are willing to share, and the ones that aren't so good don't. And that's okay.
And Sully, I would say you find another women's coach that's sharing that type of information with someone that's in their conference.
Right.
Wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't happen.
You know what? I'll put one up there, and that's Bobby Peterson, because I know she's done that within the NBC.
You and I,
but she's been there forever, just like.
And look at the culture, though. Look what Jaden said about her and the culture. She said the culture's great, and when you believe in yourself, and you have Knipe's culture's great. Theo, what you're doing, the culture's great. Yeah. So when you have that, that's something worth sharing, right? You know, and the one thing that I love is maybe you know this, maybe you don't, Theo, if you've talked to JP, but Long Beach State back in the day with Ray, their coach, Ray and John had an amazing relationship with Long Beach and Northridge. They did very similar. They helped each other out. I mean, being a state school is a state school. It was great. They were great with each other. So it's awesome to hear that Long Beach and Northridge is still doing that. And, Al's one of our good friends. We're going to have him on here sometime. And we love him, and I love what he's done, to see what he's done. And what's cool about it, like we already said this about you, is you played there, right? You got to play there. You got recruited there. You graduated from there. You were an assistant there, and now you're the head coach. And it's so cool. It's just so cool.
That's the same with Alan, and the same with Bobby. Bobby played there, assistant coach there, head coach there. Same story that you guys have. So there's some similarities there. What's about sharing and caring.
So I'm going to go back because I interrupted the question. So we talked about NIL, and that's a whole different thing. Now with the scholarship limits and all of that, how is the school has to fund the scholarships, right? You don't just have it in your back pocket. So that's the first thing that has to happen, whether they agree or don't agree. So how does that look for like a CSUN in a Long Beach compared to like UCLA? That's, in the Big Ten and getting all that money.
I think every school is going to be very unique in how they get there. But I'll talk about the opt-in, opt-out, right? And essentially what's coming, because that's a really, really important part of this. And part of the reason why I can't give you a complete answer today.
Of course.
Today, we don't know as a university whether we're opting in, period. We also don't know whether we're maybe not opting in now, but opting in later. There's also a lot of discussion about what that actually looks like. Obviously, we know what the opt-in piece looks like, and there's some guidelines that have been laid out, but the NCAA has not really laid out what it looks like if you don't, and what competitively does it look like, right? Like one of the issues that I think we're all going to eventually see is this game continues to grow, and obviously with the NCAA changing, there are teams that are opting in and being told by their athletic directors, we're not upping your scholarship. So I know you're at 23 roster today. We're moving you to 18 roster tomorrow.
And keeping at 4.5.
And keeping you at 4.5.
Wow.
And what that has the potential to do for obviously the opportunities, right? But really the competitive piece, because if you really lock up a team in that perspective, but then there's also teams who they compete against who didn't opt in, who have the same scholarship but more players and the ability to build on that. Now it doesn't seem competitively fair across the board. So I couldn't tell you exactly what it's going to look like from a landscape perspective, but I will tell you that I think that long term, like there's a lot of fears around this, but I think long term it's going to end up great. And I really do believe in the sport. I believe in the coaches. I believe in where the game is headed. And I think long-term, this is going to be a really great thing.
That's all.
From a national championship perspective, how does Division II come into play? Because when I went to go watch Lewis and Long Beach State, and Al and I got to talk a little bit, and he's like, we kind of just touched on this. He goes, but here's the difference. Lewis is Division II. They're going to have different rules, right?
Yes.
So how do you see that playing out on? Because, combine the two to go for a national championship.
That's right. Yeah, and so on the podcast that we do on a weekly basis, we're talking about this, right? Because Dan Friend is on that podcast, and he is also on the board and sits on the committee and serves, and I think the big thing is it's probably going to force Division II's hand, right? And we've talked a lot about the potential of a Division II championship separating and doing their own thing, but at some point, that likely will be the case. And as you see,
it should be the case though, because the difference is, I mean, I don't know what they are specifically today, but when I was at Northridge, when I first got there, every sport was Division II, but men's volleyball played in Division I. So we were the same thing. Division II back then, it was 10 semesters, and that's all, you got your 10 semesters. So you could be 25 years old and have only went to, 4 semesters of college and go play Division II sports. And so, like, imagine that I don't know if that's the rules anymore, but like in volleyball, like you're saying, you go to Lewis and you're 25 years old, you're a sophomore and you're playing against 18-year-olds at Northridge that are, stuck in Division I. Like, so it's going to be interesting to see. And I hope they do change it because that gives more growth for the sport, more D2 schools, more D1 schools. So,
well, and in theory, right, I think it sounds like a really great idea, but it's tough to tell the kids at Lewis who just knocked off Loyola this week, hey, you're not a Division I team. It's like, well, we play like a Division I team.
Right.
We're beating Division I teams. And so that, I think it's going to be interesting, Coley, right, as we watch the separation. If you do end up opting in and the scholarship amount grows, that's where we'll start to see a divide, right? And so far, because we've all been under the 4.5, whether you're Division II or you're Division I, it's been tough for Division I's to really separate. But I think that there's the potential of that taking place at some point, and to your point, more growth.
So speaking of divisions, you just played Cal Lutheran University, on Friday night, Chuck English.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a correspondent from the East Coast, Dave. His kids play Division III, and he goes to the games a lot. Give us, you beat him in 3. Congrats. Love to see it. Thanks. What do you think about just the growth of the sport? There's 200 teams in Division III, and how was it playing a team like that? Where do they sit quality-wise in regards to, like, the level?
Sure. So obviously Cal Lutheran and Kevin Judd is a really great friend of mine, as well as Chuck English, who I've known for a really, really long time, right? And they've done a tremendous job with that program. And last year they were the national champs, right? So proof is in the pudding in terms of what they've done with it. I think as far as the level, it's incredible how good volleyball is top to bottom. There were some serves last night that came from Cal Lu that we absolutely are seeing at the Division I level on a consistent basis. And Kevin has some players that are really, really good. And so obviously we've already seen the NAIA and what they're doing. And obviously the rules are different. Right. What I think is most impressive about Division III is they don't have any scholarship. And to see the growth of the level and what they've done over these years in a time when there's not a lot of scholarship, some of these schools are very enrollment driven. Right? It is really impressive when you start to look at it from that perspective. And Cal Lutheran is a great program, and there are many great Division III programs. Like Springfield has been beaten up on Division I's for years. Yeah, people won't play them unless it's an exhibition because they've been deadly.
Yeah, we got him on here, and I knew Cal Lu last year. Obviously, I knew that happened, but I did not realize how many Division III schools there are. Northeast is where a lot of them are, and how much volleyball it is. And so Dave was telling us on this, and I've just been super impressed. Now I've been doing more research and trying to watch games online, and I just can't believe, like you said, how many are playing. It's so awesome from when us 3 were playing college volleyball, right?
What was 16? What did we say, 16?
Yeah, it was 16, and we'd go out to play Ball State, and that's it, like now there's just teams everywhere, and it's just, it's awesome. It's so awesome to see men's volleyball. We talk about all volleyball from women's to beach, but to see our sport, us 4 sport men's volleyball, where we all played, to see where it is today and where it's going is just, it's awesome. I'm so excited for it.
It couldn't be more exciting. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and with Division III, so I just happened to stumble on Illinois Wesleyan D3, 20 guys on the roster. 20 guys. Like, what do we have? 12 on ours? 20 on both sides. But you said that's D3, that's no scholarships, right? So both teams playing with 20 plus on there, and there was a good crowd. I was like, I had no idea this was even here. shame on me, shame on
why
us.
were you there? Tell us why you were. At least tell him why you were there, so he understands.
I coached. I'm a high school track coach. Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't my daughter. I was a high school track coach.
Okay, you were okay. I thought your daughter was competing.
So my kids were jumping, and hey, my jumpers did fine. They did a school record indoors, school record on the high jump. So I'm pretty proud of my kids. Get that right. But I was there, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a volleyball match going on. So I snuck in there while the girls were warming up, and I just sat there and I watched, and I'm like, there's a crowd here even. Like, this is crazy. And I started counting the guys on the bench, and I counted the bench on the other side. I'm like, there's 40 volleyball players in here right now for Division III. There's no scholarships. I thought it was wonderful. And when we first started this podcast, we brought that up. I'm like, do you guys even know the numbers for Division III? And all of us were like, nope. And to say, well, it was over 300 teams now. Just in college. No, we're not talking club. Talking, division and up and coming. They're still coming on board. Amazing stuff.
So the things you're doing with volleyball, helping it grow, Theo, you're on podcasts, you really love the game, you support the game. What would you tell young kids out there that want to play college volleyball in the landscape of today, and take the money out of it, like the joy of it? What would you tell like a 12-year-old if you were giving a little speech to a club, like besides the work ethic, like what would you tell them? What would you tell them?
Yeah, this game changed my life, Coley. So it's,
mine too.
Sounds familiar.
I like you grew up playing basketball, right? And football, and that was all I knew. And as a young kid, I thought volleyball was a girl sport, right? I know you've all heard this story before.
Oh, yeah.
But the people that I've gotten to know, the opportunities the game has given me, I can't even tell you, my wife, my kids, everything that has fallen through in my life has come from this game. And so it's hard to even put it in words how grateful I am for it, right? But to tell a kid just from a sport perspective, I fell in love with this game so fast. Mm-hmm. Like, it was one of those things that the volleyball coach had me come out. He was like, hey, if you want to jump higher, I've seen your dunks. They're not that impressive. Come out to the volleyball games and I'll show you how to jump, right?
Yeah.
And he knew how to strike a chord with me because it offended me, but it also... I was like, I'll see you on Thursday, coach.
Yeah,
right.
Prove you wrong.
And I walked in the gym, and there was this kid, and I'll never even forget it. Right, there's this kid, Mike Howarth, who is a great friend of mine now. But at the time, I thought he was a mediocre athlete at best. And he goes to hit a ball, and I go to hit a ball, and he is way better than me at volleyball. Right, and I don't know how to do the footwork. I have no idea what this should even look like. Yeah. Right, and seeing that, I was like motivated to try and become great. Right. And it was something that grabbed me. And then you go to practice and you go to club and you see how big this is and how much bigger it is than you ever imagined. I mean, this game is something truly, truly special. And every day I pinch myself a little bit, guys. I wake up in the morning and I can't believe where I'm at and how this game has gotten me there.
It's so cool. It's great that you got to pick a career that you love. And you got to do something that you're doing something that you love, but not just love, but really passionate about it. And that's, I think, as we get older, that's hard sometimes. You lose that passion and you have it. And it's just great for you to do that. And you love the game of volleyball. And I think maybe after me for a little bit, people lose the pushing of the sport, like to continue to grow the sport and get the younger kids to play the sport and come watch the sport. And now everyone can watch it. ESPN Plus. I mean, you and Cal Lou are on ESPN Plus. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, right?
It's so cool.
You're bringing grass volleyball. I want to talk about that. You're bringing that back to Northridge. So it's great that you do that. I'm happy for you, but I think it's great that you keep promoting the sport, and we're going to continue to do that. So that's important for us too.
Yeah. So Theo, we try to make everybody human on here. So we asked some random questions for you.
Sure.
So before Bear gets to his, what do you like on your pizza?
I'm a big veggies guy, right? Especially when it comes to pizza. But I'll tell you what. So actually, last night was wild. I was actually at a neighbor's house, and a good friend of mine, her name is Sandy, and she made a pizza that had goat cheese.
Oh yeah,
and strawberries.
Oh
wow, strawberries on a pizza,
and it made 0 sense, right? I'm like, I don't know what we're doing here. Goat cheese, strawberries, and then she drizzled honey on top. Ooh. And it was damn impressive. Okay. So
wow.
I don't know that it's necessarily my favorite, but it was so impressive.
do it again.
That it's like
You need
left
it
an
again.
impact on me. Like I need it again.
Yeah.
Wow.
So today it's your favorite pizza. Right now,
Today,
it's your
that's
favorite
what I'm
pizza.
ordering if there was a way to order it.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
what's your least favorite thing on a pizza?
So I actually love seafood, but somebody ordered anchovies on a pizza one time.
Couldn't
And
do
it
it.
was from like Domino's. It wasn't even like a place where you should have any business ordering anchovies, right?
Yeah.
And I eat anything out of the ocean, guys. Like I love
Yeah,
seafood.
I'm
I love
down.
sushi. This was the worst tasting experience of my entire life. So you throw anchovies on there, I'm shocked. Like
Not
I can't
happening.
go back, man.
Bear, what you
Amazing.
got for a boy Theo?
What kind of music do you listen to? What genre do you prefer?
Yeah. Sure. So I grew up on hip hop, right? And so my childhood was Tupac. It was Biggie. It was Jay-Z, Nas, and I think I still listen to modern music today. I still like pop culture music, right? But when I'm having a rough day, it's late '90s hip hop that
there you
is
go.
absolutely my
Biggie's my number. If I'm going to rank all my hip hop or my rap artists, I love Pac and I can go down, but Biggie for me is number one. Mooney and I listen to him all the time.
My first ever concert was Run DMC, Houdini, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, all in one concert. They were all in one concert. It was
LL.
just right, and it was
I need
amazing.
love.
what you wouldn't pay to go back and experience that one more time.
Oh,
Right?
And it was just before they were ready to explode, especially Beastie Boys. They were just exploding. So we got to see them before they were it was crazy. But My Adidas comes on, everybody takes off their shoes and pumping up their shoes and My Adidas. Anyway, back in the day, but awesome
those are
hip
good
hop.
times,
Cool. You got something
Michael,
for Theo?
my question is going to go back to we talk more grass volleyball. So tell us about that. We had Jaden on here. She loves grass volleyball. There's a culture to grass volleyball. It's different. It's within the culture of volleyball, but it's its own.
Yeah.
It was really big when I played because Price, put them on. You're bringing them back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Well, let me tell you. So the legend of Northridge grass volleyball was so big and so important that as somebody who was a kid, I never played grass volleyball. I didn't even know what it was, right? When I got to Northridge, the older guys on our team would always talk about it. They talked about the Coley Kymans. They talked about the Bob Samuelson. They talked about Jeff Campbell, right?
Yeah,
Guys
he played
being
a lot.
on the grass and being deadly, and guys driving from all over the state, like Bakersfield and Orange County, and coming up to these grass tournaments.
Vegas, people come. Yeah.
From Vegas. Yeah. And I heard about them my entire time at Northridge. And even as a coach, I remember just thinking about, like, how do you do it? Like, how do we get this back? How do we, and for me, when I took over as the head coach, I kept trying to figure out, how do I give back? Like, this game, I feel like I've taken, and not in a negative way, but I've taken so much. The game has given me so much. I got to figure out a way to give it back. And I got to find a way to make it inexpensive. I got to find a way to make it a great experience, and I got to find a way to give it. And so we did it. And so essentially this is year 2. Kevin Judd has been involved in helping me with this. And in fact has been a massive part of it in the process. But it's really just about the volleyball. And it takes away a lot of there's a lot that's come into this game, right? And the recruiting side, and for the kids that play club, as great as the growth has been, when you got to get into a big tournament, and not only do you want to compete and do well for your team, but you got big time coaches that are all standing at every corner. There's a lot that comes into it. And I feel like the grass strips all of that away.
And the fun comes back.
You get to just compete. You can pick your own team. You can just play the game, and you get to just love it. And we had close to 200 people out here this past year.
Wow, good for you guys.
And it's been awesome watching it grow and come back.
Do you have the guys on the team helping out and like doing that kind of stuff like John did too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, see, that's cool too, right? Because we got to be involved.
Build it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best part, Coley, is that they've been able to see how they can help too, and they help build all of the. It's actually the same
setups with it.
Same setups.
That's
just the same stuff.
That's cool.
So I'm surprised, like Sully, you and Bear never played, but back
I
in our
played
days,
a lot of grass volleyball.
Well,
tournaments.
a lot of grass. At Northridge.
I don't think I ever played at Northridge.
Yeah,
No.
so John Price, my coach, who's was been there forever and one of the best to do it at Northridge and whatnot. He started this to fundraise because we needed money, right, at Northridge. And he built this system. I don't even know how to put it, but it's just wood, but they're
A-frames.
Like
they're A-frames, exactly. They're like A-frames, and it's all across the grass. There's, I don't know, 10, 15, and you put them up, and then there's like, 2 or 3 of them. And we used to have unbelievable, and we couldn't play when we were, right there playing at Northridge, but we would set them up in the morning. We'd have to tear them down at night. A couple of us would have to work during the day. And to go to Theo's point, which was at Northridge, like, oh my God, do I really got to get up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday? But like looking back, how cool it was to do it. We're with our friends, talking about the night before or whatever. All the volleyball players that are playing in these things are not playing college volleyball like we are. They're around the college volleyball players. They're coming to the games. They get to talk to us. They're seeing us. We're doing all this. We're watching. We're seeing young high school kids that may be playing with us in 3 years. You're seeing guys like Mike Bird, Chuck English, guys that had played at Northridge. They're playing now, so you're rooting for them. Like Sammy's playing. Like, it was awesome. And it was just such a cool culture within a culture, like you said. And so many people would come and play from all over. Bakersfield, San Diego, Vegas. And I'm glad you brought it back, because it's a great something unique within Northridge that you can do that I think is pretty cool to help build the program.
Yeah, well, and I got to give a lot of credit to John Price, right, who has had a huge influence on me as a coach and has been nothing but my biggest supporter. But he started it back then, and I remember when I told him, hey, I'm going to bring it back, he's like, dude, that is awesome. Like, he was thrilled. He was also like, that's going to be really tough. But that's
it is.
Do you guys have like guys only, or do you have guys and girls?
No, so we actually, so initially we didn't get any girls to sign up the first time around, but that is in the works. The goal is to, essentially the way that John did it back in the day was day 1, I think was guys, day 2 was like a co-ed. And so as it continues to grow, the goal is to get as many people that want to play volleyball out on the grass.
If I could give you just a little suggestion.
Sure.
There used to be a thing called reverse co-ed. Do you know what that is?
Have you not done this?
I played in a couple reverse co-eds. And
guys have to hit behind the 10-foot line. It's a women's
on
net.
A girls' net.
It's a women's net. And the men, so you're playing on a women's net. That's it. And the women can hit wherever you want, like normal doubles. But the guys have to hit from behind the 10-foot line.
10-foot line.
But you can bang.
I don't think the guys can block. I don't remember.
Guys can't be at the net. No, they can't be at the net. But in today's game, like, think about setting on a women's net, like at the ball at the 3-foot line, and you just flying out of the back row. But it was gnarly. And like Mike Bird, his brother, they were like some of the best out there. So we would be like, a lot of us that didn't even have to work the afternoons. Like if I worked in the morning, like the last thing I want to do is go back to Northridge on the grass. But like we'd all go back, because the finals were unbelievable. Like they were like high level elite volleyball players that just finished college, and it was really fun to watch.
Talk about tight pipes, and the girls are back there digging. You're like, I just crushed that thing. But no, good suggestion, Bear. That's good, man.
That is a great
program.
Hey, I got a question for you too, Theo. I think when we met, I'm going to change lanes a little bit. We met, I think, at the High Performance. USA Volleyball. I think that's where the first time we met. And just wondering, are you still involved with the High Performance, or are you still coaching USA Volleyball? And can you go into a little bit of your international experience?
Sure, man. I mean, I started it, I think the first time I was there was maybe 2012. And I think I've coached at every level, from your high performance camps to youth national, junior national preparations, our B squad for the senior team, and took them to the Pan Am Cup. And it's been an incredible experience. It's been, I honestly, I owe a lot of my coaching experience to the coaches that I got to work with in that pipeline. It helped me become the coach I am today. And I don't do it anymore, Bear. And let me tell you why. I actually, a big part of it was my kids.
I was going to say that. You're a family
guy. For those that don't know, I have 2 kids, but 12 and 10, Oliver and Rain, and my wife, right? And so for close to 15 years, my wife was an absolute rock star and gave me the ability to work all summer and work all year, and be with USA whenever they needed it, and obviously be with Northridge when the day job was there. There was a moment, I was coaching the youth national team 2 summers ago, and we were headed actually to Argentina. We're training it at the Colorado Springs Olympic Center, and my son, who plays basketball, was on a fast break, fell and hit his head. And got a scan, and they were definitely concerned about an aneurysm in his brain. I left the team, obviously, flew back to California, and my wife and I had a conversation, and we were like, okay, this is awesome that you work for USA and that you've done this for so many years, but obviously there will come a time where the kids are grown up. And how many more summers are you going to miss?
Right. I'm proud of you, Theo, for making that decision.
That's huge.
I'm proud of you, bud.
It was a tough one,
of course,
but the best decision that I've ever made.
Yeah.
And last year was the first summer that I wasn't with USA, and the family memories and the moments that we got to have, it was the first time that we had really done it. And so to answer your question, I love USA, and at some point I look forward to being back involved. But I'm stoked to continue to raise my kids.
Yeah, I can tell you this from my kid being 24 now. That was just 10 years ago or 12 years ago. From 10 to 12, you made the right choice, and especially just being around them all the time. Whether they play sports, whether they're in music, whether they're love art, whatever they do, as long as you're there with them and supporting them and embracing those times, because you get to be my age, and then your kids get to be out of the house, and you're like, holy shit, like what happened? You'd give anything to go back to that. So kudos to you to being a great father and a great family man, and still being a great coach. It's not like you just hung it up. Like you got a hell of a job running Northridge, and you got them in the top 10 in the country. Us alumni are expecting you to win the Natty in the next year or two. So, so go back to winning the Natty. I know we don't like to talk about other programs that much, especially the one where these guys are
Go
from.
Beach.
But
Go Beach. Sorry.
From a coach's perspective and a fan's perspective, we talk about him a lot. But what do you think of Nikolov?
Yeah. Wow. We talk about this all the time amongst the coaching circles. Nikolov is the most impressive setter that I've ever seen.
Me too.
Is the most impressive setter I've ever seen ever, which I think is a pretty crazy way to put it.
That's saying a lot.
And not that he is a complete package yet, right? Like
I don't disagree with that. I agree with that.
But what he has done for NCAA men's volleyball, and this is where I give a lot of credit, right, to the players that deserve it. Notoriety that he's bringing to the game, his willingness as a VNL player who honestly should have went pro last year, to come over here and bring his talents and his following and what he does, because it's truly special, right? The way he plays the game is truly special. To bring it here and for all of us to get to see it, for all of us to get to learn from it, from all of us to get to enjoy it, right? From the fans' perspective, it's incredible. It's incredible. And we continue to talk about the level of this game and where it is. If that's the level, it's as good as it's ever been, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's ever seen a setter quite like that in college athletics. But as a coach, and the fact that I got to scout him for Wednesday, he's a problem.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm glad you said what you said, because I said this the other day. I was like, to all the setters around the country, like, I mean, it's like I said, like when you're a basketball player and you see Jordan, you're like, oh shit, I guess I'm not the best player like I thought I was. But like, so all these setters, I mean, I've seen Irvines and SCs, and I've watched you guys on video. I'll see you at that game on the 5th. But like, if you're watching and you see him play, you're like, oh shit, I got to get to work. Like, I got to get to work. I thought I was working hard, but oh my gosh, like, so like, I hope. And again, thank for him to come over here and to make the level of our country and our players better. Like, to realize that there is more to do and there is no cap. Like, I thought I could only do this. No, you can actually swing from the back row as a setter on a 2-ball, like they do on the beach. Like, who does that? Like, he does. Like, why wouldn't you set him like that if you can, right? So that's cool, and it probably makes your job tougher to scout him, but also gives you like maybe some insight for your players to say, like, guys, we're going to change the way we work a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and what an experience, right? What an ability to, I echo everything you just said, because what it does is it makes us better. And that's why I'm so grateful that he's here, because what he's doing is he's raised the bar, and it's awesome, man. What an experience.
Hey, so I don't want to go without saying, you mentioned it just briefly, but we've talked about it on this podcast about your spouse, not yours specifically, but a coach's spouse, right? And how there's quite a bit of divorces out there, right? But that sounds like you got a pretty great gal there to kind of get it, and then to rope you in, to realize, hey, I still got your back on this whole college thing, because it's college coaching is crazy. Bear's going through right now. I've been through it, right? But to have somebody to sit down with you and say, it's great, you're doing fantastic, love what you're doing, but that takes someone special to kind of rope you back in, and for you to believe in your partner, just say, okay, you got my back, I got to have your back, we got a family, currently, and like, Coley says, we got, all of us have kids right now, but the 3 of us are almost out of the house. Yeah, I just didn't want to go that unnoticed, that how your wife just kind of stepped up for a lot of reasons, from supporting you, right, through all the not being there, recruiting trips, all the things you do overseas internationally, to say, hey, let's cut back a little bit, right? And you bought in, and you got it. You got it. That's a big deal, because honestly, some coaches don't get it, and it doesn't turn out too well for them. So I just didn't want to have that go unnoticed.
No, so you hit it on the head. And you first of all, you want to make me cry on this podcast, but like you start talking about,
we're telling stories. It's all about that.
Yep. No, my wife Kate. I mean, I couldn't be half of what I am without her.
Yeah,
and it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because she has not only held our family, and you said it this way, like without the support of your significant other, this is hard.
Yep.
The journey, when you essentially have 20 to 25 guys that you are helping raise, right? You're guiding them. You are their
responsible,
contact, you are their confidant. You're responsible for them, and you invest, right? Like the amount of time and how emotionally connected I am to them as people it takes so much out of you. And what Kate has done is given me the ability to be that person for my players. But the key has always been for her to be more important than volleyball.
Sure.
And she has always made sure that I was more important than whatever it was that was in her life. Right. And as long as you keep your significant other first over everything, then things start to get easy. But if you lose sight of that, which it's really easy to do, it goes away very quickly.
It's hard to be a spouse with a collegiate, husband, wife, whatever the case may be, and we saw the emotion just from the effects that coaches can have on people with Jaden's interview. And I mean, not to toot my own horn, right? But everybody saw that. Then it was genuine. It was just like, hey, if it wasn't for you, and you are vested. But I do think it does, your wife, if she doesn't get it, right? Because they need to get it, right? And I just, like Coley said, proud of you, Theo, right? It was just the fact that she's like, hey, we need to talk, right? And so that was a really good cohesive moment, and love to hear it.
I'm going to give a plug here for Northridge men's volleyball for anyone listening. And
why would you do that?
This is important. And I'm going to actually give this one for Long Beach State too.
Okay,
because I know Alan. This is coming from a parent who has a kid being recruited in college sports. And I'm talking to a college coach right now. You said some stuff to me that resonated to me, is you care, Theo. And you just said your wife understands that you have 20 to 25 young men that you're raising, that you're responsible for. And you know how important that is. There's a lot of coaches in this country right now that have forgotten that, especially on the basketball side, but have forgotten that. And that's why you get into it. Obviously there's money, and it's a business, and it's a career, and I get all that. But so if you're looking for a program, people out here that are listening and you're in high school, go to a program like Theo's, like
Agreed.
Alan's,
Agreed.
that have a coach that's going to care about you, that's going to care about your well-being. So in 20 years from now, your son's on a podcast talking with his friends and his old coach, not being bitter and angry and quitting and hates everything because the coach could give a shit about him. So again, Theo, just hats off to you for just, coming on, but all of the things, but just building a program and a culture that treats young athletes as young men, and you're trying to help them grow as young men and win games. Of course, we want to win. Yeah. We want to win championships, but that's the stuff that matters. Having them have fun, having them enjoy their journey. One team wins a national championship every year. Only one.
Hey, how many times do you guys bring up Price?
Yeah.
Both of you. You know what I mean? Like, lasts forever. Good guy, cares, tried to win every time he was out there. Good for you guys.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that, Theo, just from a fan of yours as your coach, and just have known you for all these years. But like, to hear you say that, it just hit my heart, because
that was big.
I'm going through it with Braden. I mean, he found his school, and he found a coach like you that's young and excited and understands it. And that's why he's going to Washington State. But it's great to hear you be like that and put that as such an importance as a coach, because you didn't say we're trying to win the national championship, which you are. You didn't say, you talked about culture. You talked about growing up. You talked about teaching. That's what it's supposed to be about, and fun, right? It's what it's supposed to be about. So good for you.
Thank you, Coley. Appreciate it, man.
So you got Barry, got anything for Theo? Because I know we can go on for 2 more hours.
Where do you see the program in 10 years?
Theo as the head coach.
That's a good question. You know, I think my vision for this team is difficult to see 10 years from now. And honestly, a lot of that is because I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know what the landscape looks like.
We talked about that. It's going to be crazy for the next 3 to 5 years.
But here's what I can tell you every day, and you can ask my guys because they'll tell you that this is what I say every day. Every day, we're looking to get better. And it's in every facet, in every way. Where we go in 10 years, whatever I tell you could either put a ceiling on us or it could be too high of a mark. And I'm not interested in either one. I want to be the best version of what we have with our resources, who we are, and what we're capable of every single day. And when we look back and we can figure out where we've gone, I guarantee you it'll be as great and as fast as we could have done it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great answer.
Stuff.
And I'm excited as an alumni. I mean, you know, the thing that was really funny was this was last week. I got a call from a player that I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the last pod, but I got a call from a player, Gene Erkin. He played there when I was there, but for a couple of years. We go to breakfast on Sunday and we were doing a pod later. This was just last week. And so I send the text to the Northridge chain. I know you know it, but we're on it from Price to Lafrano to Colin Smith to, you know, Matteo, Geeter, could go on from Bird to, I could keep going on, Chuck English. And so I send this picture of him, and then the stories that just kept coming out of like from all the past of like the bus stories and the van stories and the this stories and all of these stories. And we started talking about you and like how you were there and all the stories and how it's just progressed from 1986, from, you know, one of these guys playing to 86 to now and 225, and Chuck was on the thing and we started talking about the game, and it's just so rad that volleyball, you know, can do that. And all of us are so excited to see where that was my whole point of this is through the joking and the stories and stuff, like all of us are just so excited for Northridge volleyball. We're so excited to be back a part of it. And you're doing such a great job of bringing the alumni back. Al does a great job with that and making events for us and having us to be involved. And I'm sure NIL will start coming with that too. But all of it, it's just, you have us excited, you know, us Northridge alumni, and good job. So excited to keep watching it and watching you just take this to the next level.
That means a lot coming from Coley Kyman, man. That's a big deal. Thanks, Coley. I appreciate
Coley
it, man.
Kyman, legend, coming through once again.
Yeah, legend a long time ago. You know, now I'm just, you know, happy to
Still
be here.
legend in his mind today.
Hey, and if you haven't heard him sing karaoke, you want to talk about legend?
Oh, American Pie. He sings it great.
American Pie. It's my
Coley's got
understanding.
some pipes, man.
I appreciate it. Hey, there's a few people on your staff that can sing too. I mean, that was a fun night that night. That was a fun night. But
we had a
there's
good time.
stories there. There's stories within the stories. We got to get the stories.
I mean,
out
we
here.
haven't even talked 6-man and Theo's team at the 6-man. I mean, we could go down and talk volleyball forever. I mean, there's so many stories.
We've had some good times.
We have. And so the one thing we ask everyone, and I'm sure you would be game for this, is down the road, we'd love to have you on again. You know,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
you know,
Theo,
after
absolutely.
like this would be a great way to do it. Like, I think it's like in April or May. May's the championship, right?
Yep.
The playoffs. So like in May, when you upset Long Beach and Nikolov's not even going to the Final Four, I think that would be a perfect time to have you on. What do you think?
This sounds great. I
Sounds
can't
great.
wait.
Okay. Just want to
Yeah.
make sure that's a good time to get
Count
you.
me in.
Thank you so much, Theo.
Wow.
It's great talking with you.
Okay. Well, that was
Absolutely, Bear.
Theo
Pleasure.
Edwards on Set the Pipe, everyone. It was sure a pleasure. It was good to meet you, Theo. These guys have been talking very highly on you before you got here, and your story was great. And we, like I said, like Coley said, we'd love to have you back, but appreciate your time, man.
Hey, this has been a pleasure. I love you guys and appreciate what you're doing for the game.
Awesome.
Yeah, we love you
Matadors.
too.
Go Matadors.